It was late at night, but she was still awake. The government tasked her to protect her country fellow from strange creatures, not knowing they were hiding an abysmal truth from her. Welcome back to Paramount Recapped. I don't have many subscribers, but your single comment is a ray of hope to motivate me. So, there's this guy named Levi. He's a former Marine sniper who's been having a rough time lately. Sleep doesn't come easy for him, thanks to some pretty intense nightmares. To cope, he spends his nights driving around aimlessly or sitting by the beach, waiting for the sun to rise. He's trying to make sense of the chaos in his head, often jotting down thoughts in a notebook. Wikipedia plus 2 script shadow plus 2. One day, Levi gets a call to report to a military base. There, he meets Bartholomew, a mysterious woman who doesn't quite fit the usual military mold. She reveals that she's a hired killer and offers Levi a new contract after a psychiatrist deems him unfit for service. Meanwhile, across the globe, there's Dra, a skilled Lithuanian sniper. After a successful mission, she returns home to visit her mother's grave and care for her terminally ill father. She shares details of her latest mission with him, giving him a shell casing as a keepsake. Her father, who keeps mementos of her violent past, listens solemnly as Dra confesses her inner conflict. She's trapped in a life of violence and secrecy, and her superiors in Moscow have ordered her to disappear for a year on a special assignment. The real struggle, however, is that her father's health is rapidly declining. Dra knows that he will either die during her absence or choose to end his life on Valentine's Day to spare himself from prolonged suffering. Come September, Levi wakes up from anesthesia aboard a helicopter. The female pilot confirms his identity, hands him his personal belongings, and instructs him to disembark and walk another 38 kilometers to the designated point. Levi complies, parachutes down, and treks through a picturesque area until he reaches a long gorge shrouded in thick fog. At the gorge, Levi meets JD, his colleague whom he's set to replace. JD briefs him on the situation. The western and eastern sides of the gorge are controlled by autonomous observation posts equipped with generators and solar panels, owned by Western and Eastern European countries. Only one person is on duty at each post, and any contact between observers is prohibited. There's a small vegetable garden nearby, and plenty of game in the forest. The main task of the observer is to patrol the territory daily, monitor the integrity of the perimeter, check the operation of automatic machine gun turrets, replace suspended mines, and repair the fence in case of breaches. Communication sessions are authorized only once a month. Antennas are installed around the perimeter to send false signals to satellites, rendering the gorge invisible from above. JD also warns that in the event of a security system failure or perimeter breach, a special protocol called Stray Dog is activated, triggering the air shield system. In such cases, one must run as far away as possible. Most of the equipment dates back to the 1940s after World War II, when the West and the USSR entered into a secret agreement to protect the exit from the gorge from the so-called empty people. No one knows who they are, but when 3 cavalry battalions were sent into the gorge after the war to clear it, none returned. JD assumes that the entrance to real hell is hidden below. The next morning, after seeing JD off, Levi begins to settle in. Unbeknownst to him, JD, upon reaching the evacuation point, is shot in the forehead instead of receiving a well-deserved rest and salary. This incident is immediately reported to Bartholomew. October rolls around, and Levi diligently performs his routine duties, patrolling the area, checking the gorge's defense system, inspecting the fence, counting mines, checking the turret's ammunition, and participating in the monthly communication session. Bored, he reads books from the meager library and discovers favorite quotes left by previous observers written on the wall behind a bookcase. One day, curiosity gets the better of him, and Levi looks through his binoculars to the other side of the gorge. There, he notices a beautiful girl, Dasa. Sensing that someone is watching her, she turns around, but without optics, she cannot see what's happening across the way. During a thunderstorm at night, Levi experiences a PTSD attack. He jumps up suddenly, accidentally knocks over a glass of water, and injures his leg. While treating the wound, he notices that the lights are on in the tower across the gorge. His colleague is also awake. November arrives, and Dra celebrates her birthday with cake and champagne. Feeling the lack of communication, she decides to attract Levi's attention by firing a shot into the air and writing a question on a piece of paper. After reading it through binoculars, Levi replies that contact is forbidden but still succumbs to the provocation and offers to drink potato moonshine to her health. Their festive conversation continues. Dasa wants to dance, so she asks Levi to turn on the music and provokes him to demonstrate his sniper skills by breaking his mug with a well-aimed shot. Levi responds by shooting at a bottle. When Dasa complicates the task by placing a second bottle on her head, she suddenly notices that automatic searchlights have turned on under her colleague's tower and are searching for targets. Leaning over the railing, Levi peers into the darkness and sees hideous-looking creatures. He opens fire on them, and a suspended mine is activated, throwing some of the attackers down. Dasa launches a large-caliber machine gun on her tower to help her comrades shoot down the monsters. As soon as they have killed all the creatures, another monster climbs out on Dra's side. She starts shooting back, and now Levi has to help her with machine gun fire. In the process, suspended mines explode, hitting her shoulder with shrapnel. Then, automatic turrets are activated, and the monster's attack ends. While Dra treats her wound, Levi covers her with his rifle. The girl thanks him, saying that it was her best birthday ever. The next day, while cleaning up the aftermath of the night's attack, Levi and Dasa, who are covering each other, see a drone fly out of the fog below. It hovers in the air and then rapidly disappears in an unknown direction. In December, Levi decorates a tree near the tower with spare light bulbs, wishing his colleague a Merry Christmas. They continue to communicate throughout the month, playing chess and building snowmen. This goes on until February 14th. Dasa is sad, realizing that her father is dying at home at this time. She writes to Levi that she would like him to be with her. This request leads Levi to interesting thoughts, which lead to a burst of creativity. He takes a grenade launcher shell, unscrews the warhead from it, and unwinds a spool of rope. In the yard, he secures one end to himself and attaches the other to the shell, which he fires toward the eastern tower. Dra is shocked by this creative solution and ties the rope stretched over the gorge. Levi, having written an invitation to dinner, prepares for the date by shaving and gathering a modest bouquet of wildflowers. Catching hold of the rope, he accelerates and slides over the precipice. However, he fails to calculate his inertia and ends up hanging in the middle. Undaunted, he helps himself with his hands. Soon, the colleagues meet face to face. Dasa has prepared a pie, but first, she makes her guests take a shower and change into the clothes left by the previous observers. Then, they have dinner discussing their parents' work in the past. The evening ends with dancing, which smoothly turns into something more intimate. Later, Levi admits that he writes poetry and even composed one for Dasa, but flatly refuses to read it. In the morning, the guy is going to return to his side to make it to the monthly communication session. However, during the transportation, it turns out that they missed another attack. The monsters are already climbing the wall to the tower. They hit a mine, and a fragment breaks the cable. Levi falls into the fog, barely managing to activate the parachute. Without thinking twice, Dasa grabs her parachute and jumps after Levi. Flying through the yellow fog, she falls into a raging river, losing her rope climbing equipment. Levi snapped awake to find himself dangling upside down in a tree, tangled up in his parachute. The branches had him all twisted up, and before he could figure out what was going on, some giant, creepy, caterpillar-looking monster crawled toward him. It had way too many legs and a face like something out of Nightmare. It lunged at him, and he barely managed to kick and squirm his way out of the thing's grip. He slipped free, tumbling down into this thick, slimy goo that clung to him like tar. But the goo wasn't just gross. It turned out to be part of a huge, living predator with a gaping mouth that started closing in around him. Just when it looked like Levi was going to be eaten alive, Dra showed up out of nowhere. She blasted off the creature's nasty teeth with her gun, giving Levi just enough time to escape the jaws of death. The two of them didn't waste a second. They pushed forward through this foggy, haunted-looking forest. The goal was to get to the east side of the gorge and climb out using a rope. But of course, nothing was that easy. Out of the mist, these freaky horsemen with swords came charging at them. Luckily, their guns still worked, and the bullets tore through the attackers. But while they were trying to reload and regroup, Dra realized something terrible. She lost the gear they needed to scale the 500-meter high cliff. Without it, there was no way up. That meant they'd have to find a more natural exit, which was not good news at all. As Levi looked closer at the enemies they just fought, something didn't sit right. Their gear, their uniforms, it all looked way too old. That's when it hit him. These weren't new enemies. They were old soldiers, probably from Levi's own combat units, which meant these people had been trapped here for something like 80 years. Whatever was in this place, it kept people stuck and mutated them over time. They kept moving through this eerie place, and it just got creepier by the second. The trees looked like they were made out of bones, and the forest floor was littered with what looked like frozen skeletons, people who died in pain. Eventually, they came across what was left of a military base. Flags from Great Britain, the Soviet Union, and the US were still fluttering in the wind, and the whole place felt like it had been abandoned for decades. The ground was full of cracks and holes like there had been a huge earthquake ages ago. They ended up inside an old church where dead bodies were still sitting in the pews, frozen in time. As they checked out the building, a bunch of horrifying spider monsters burst out. These things had literally grown from inside human skulls. As if that wasn't terrifying enough, a swarm of empty people came through the front door. These were humans who had completely lost their form, like walking, oozing shadows of what they used to be. With the situation getting completely out of hand, the two observers blew a hole in the wall and ran for it. They made a mad dash for the bunker entrance built into the gorge wall. Once inside, they found what used to be a secret research lab, buried under years of dust and time. There were black and white photos on the walls, including one from the Yalta Conference, so the place clearly dated back to the 1940s. Levi stumbled on an old reel of film, while Drum managed to fire up a rusty propane generator. Together, they powered up an ancient projector. What they saw was wild. After the atomic bomb was created in 1946, both Western and Eastern powers secretly built this facility to develop bioweapons just as dangerous as nukes. But things went sideways when a massive earthquake hit, busting open containers and releasing experimental chemicals into the environment. Everyone in the area got infected. Their DNA merged with the surrounding plants and animals, mutating them into those twisted creatures now roaming the place. The video explained that if someone got exposed but escaped within a few hours, the mutation could still be reversed. That gave Levi and Dra a little hope. While digging through the lab, Levi also found some high-tech gear from the 2000s. Turns out, a company had come back here using drones to study the mutated samples. That explained the drone they had seen earlier. He also learned that there was a fail-safe protocol. If the place ever got compromised, a nuclear bomb would go off, wiping out everything in a 4-kilometer radius. Clearly, they needed to get out fast. But the mutants weren't dumb. They'd stolen a bag of ammo and used it as bait, leaving it out in the open. When Dra tried to grab it, a rider hiding nearby snagged her with a rope and dragged her away. She fought to cut the rope or shoot her captor, but she passed out before she could break free. Levi followed the trail to rescue her, and it led him to an old missile silo surrounded by thick, toxic red fog. Inside, Dra woke up tied up in the mutant's lair. She managed to beat the monster in a brutal fight, and Levi showed up just in time to finish it off with a perfect shot. They escaped the silo, which held a broken missile, the same kind that leaked chemicals and started this nightmare in the first place. As they trekked through a grotesque field made of rotting human flesh, Dra stepped into a sticky web and got caught. Levi had to use his saber to cut her free, but that only triggered a new attack. Dra had to blow the creature to bits with a grenade to survive. Eventually, they found an old garage full of vintage military gear. Levi came up with a plan to use one of the jeeps to scale the gorge wall. As they prepped for the climb, Dra kept the monsters at bay while Levi secured the ropes. Dra then drove the jeep up the nearly vertical cliff while monsters chased them up the wall and ropes. They fought them off mid-climb, with Levi setting several of the creatures on fire using gasoline. But the jeep took too much damage. Dra cut the ropes, and they had to finish the climb on foot. When they finally made it to the top, Levi patched up Dra's wounds. That's when the hard truth hit them. Once their mission was done, they'd probably be killed to keep everything secret. Dra suggested they run away, but Levi disagreed. If they fled, others would just be sent in their place, and the infection would keep spreading. The only real solution was to destroy the gorge once and for all. Levi set up a cable to cross the gorge again, so he could report back during the scheduled communication window. But this time, it wasn't a regular check-in. Bartholomew, his superior, was on the other end, and she knew everything. She had footage from their journey, and Levi's lies didn't fool her. She ordered him to kill the Eastern observer, Dra, and when it became clear he wouldn't do it, she sent a hit squad after them. The next morning, Levi and Dra were laying cable when they spotted a chopper headed their way. They ran for it as drones and soldiers stormed the area. Levi got hurt when a log fell on him, but he still managed to take out 2 drones. Dra shot back at their pursuers and kept moving. Eventually, they reached a safe spot and prepped their final defense. Back at the base, Bartholomew discovered a hidden message behind a bookshelf. It was a quote from Buddha: "The sun, the moon, and the truth cannot be hidden for long." Right then, Levi and Dra triggered explosives they had planted on the towers. One after another, the antennas blew up, making the gorge invisible to satellites. That's when the emergency protocol kicked in. A siren wailed, and Bartholomew and her team scrambled to board a helicopter before the nuke went off. The blast destroyed everything, throwing Levi into a river. He sank beneath the surface, injured but alive. Dra, having made it to safety, watched the explosion from a distance, heartbroken. Sometime later, Dra hid out in a cave, holding onto an envelope Levi gave her in case he didn't make it. After waiting and losing hope, she headed to France to start over. She took a job as a waitress and tried to forget the past. One evening, while delivering an order, she noticed someone sitting at a nearby table. It was Levi, alive and well. He smiled and apologized for being late. Tears, laughter, and one big kiss later, they stood together with the ocean behind them, knowing they'd made it through hell and finally found peace.